All right, how many of my introverts found one person to talk to and stayed there the whole time? All right. Very good. Well, we're going to continue moving on to another fireside chat, and I'm so happy to be able to introduce Carlos Savino, SVP from Lenovo.
Yes.
And we're going to have a great conversation about using messaging to generate revenue in digital sales. So great topic, so grab your seat. All right, right after this is the next break out in the expo hallway, and you'll be able to get back to kind of networking at that point. So Carlo, introduce yourself a little bit and kind of your role at Lenovo, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure to come speak at CX. So my name is Carlos Savino. I manage the global sales business for Lenovo. And by the way, just a step back for one moment. I think it's important to actually explain what Lenovo is. Many of the people in the audience actually don't know us by our master brand, Lenovo, but I have seen in the audience some of our products. So we sell ThinkPads, we sell yoga devices, we sell a lot of PC technology. And in fact, we are the largest global PC vendor in the world. So we sell more PCs than anybody else in the world, which was interesting because when I saw Dave here from HP, I realized I got to be very circumspect about what I say and not give away the secret sauce. But I manage about 36 countries on behalf of Lenovo.com, all sales performance, including customer care, inside sales, merchandising, marketing, et cetera. So it's a very exciting business on a super growth trajectory, and I'm just excited to talk about marketing in general and messaging and making it more effective.
All right, well, let's start with that big picture. So Lenovo, reimagining messaging, if you will, which sounds very interesting as a revenue-driving channel rather than just support or promotional. So
yes.
Go into that a little bit more.
Well, I want to make this a little interactive because I think it's getting close to lunch and people are kind of getting antsy. So let me start with a couple of hand-raised questions. How many people in here are sort of responsible for some contribution to sales for your business? Just raise your hand. Okay, good. Second question is, how many people are responsible to some degree for marketing, performance marketing for your companies? Raise hands. Oh, a lot of
Fewer.
Them. Good,
okay.
Good. So what we realized at Lenovo over the last couple of years is that the way we were looking at marketing specifically was antiquated, was depreciated, was not giving us the right insights. And particularly in the fact that we were looking at two things. We were sort of considering a linear journey for consideration to research to purchase. And we were looking at our own performance through our marketing channels through the lens of just direct attribution, last-click attribution, through some of our tools like Adobe, et cetera. But it doesn't really do a good job of being able to go understand the influence and impact that all of the different marketing vehicles have on a customer's decision to be interested in a product or to buy a product. And so we started to also look at demographics and long-term sort of horizon forecasts. And one of the things that was it's really stunning to me was that McKinsey had sort of commissioned a study, and it said that by 2030, 60% of the global workforce is going to be Gen Z and millennial. And the reason why this is important is because I'm not a Gen Z or a millennial. I just sort of missed that mark for Gen Z. But what I would tell you is that what we know about them is that many of them are digital natives. These are people who grew up on technology, grew up with computers and phones, et cetera. And in general, they are satisfied with self-service, and they don't necessarily want to go talk to a salesperson. They want to have agency. They want to be able to go do things when they want to and make it easier for them to be able to go have a relationship with a brand. So we started to go look at augmenting our direct messaging business. And we started to go look at a couple things. One is, how do we make our email program more effective? And for those of you that were in the business around 2020, COVID was many things, but what it was for a lot of businesses was an extraordinary opportunity, particularly in e-commerce businesses, to be able to go drive significant acquisition. So we saw more people coming into our business. We saw 50% growth in absolute acquisition in 2020 and 2021. And that grew our email database pretty significantly. But we started to realize the way we were approaching email was really old school. It was literally, I'm not even joking, in our email program at Lenovo, we do many billions of dollars of business in our e-commerce business. We have what amounts to probably 8 people working on email in our entire organization. And what they were doing at the time was doing bespoke email campaigns every single week. They're doing literally handcrafting 5 to 10 emails that went out to every single person in our email database with no personalization, no thought into how do you actually go talk to them differently. So we invested in tools and technology and automation and AI to be able to go augment that. So now we have, in our email program, we have 100 different work streams, 100 different workflows that are much more automated. And we invest in things like product availability, price changes, new product launches, cart abandonment. These are the things that we've started to go do that have been much more successful. And we went from an organization in email that was doing 100% of our stuff through bespoke, one-time use, never use again sort of email templates to 85% of all of what we do right now is through automation, which frees up our team's time to do less of the putting pictures in an email and actually building an email template to thinking about what's the next automation frontier I want to go sort of overcome. The second thing that we looked at was more non-traditional ones, and this is going to be SMS marketing and SMS text and actually having conversations with an SMS. And that's been very successful. In fact, our SMS program has actually grown by 30% year over year, while our email program has actually declined a little bit. So we're seeing a much greater response rate in these direct conversations that we're having with customers through SMS. But that's kind of a North America statement. When we look at the global landscape, we started to realize that there are many other messaging tools like WhatsApp that are extraordinarily important. And in fact, in Latin America, which is one of the countries we got six countries in Latin America that we do businesses, it now represents 90% of all of our inbound interactions. People don't call, people don't chat, they WhatsApp. And what's cool about WhatsApp is this ability to be able to go have sort of consistent, always-on conversations with a salesperson or a customer care person. It's not just you meet and then you lose all of the information. It's that in this WhatsApp, within this WhatsApp infrastructure, you now get the opportunity to be able to go have a consistent, always-on sort of view of every single conversation you have with us at Lenovo. It's very powerful. And what's interesting is when you look at Canada, and I don't know how many people use WhatsApp, but it's got 45% penetration for WhatsApp in Canada. So it's a huge, if you're not using it, certainly something to go look at over time. And what I will also say is that we realized, and we've actually seen this borne out by other data through external partners, is that every dollar that we invested in SMS marketing, we're getting a 60x ROAS.
Wow.
$60, and actually it's better in many other businesses where Attentive did a study and said every dollar that goes into SMS marketing in the industries that they cover generated $71 in revenue. So it is an extraordinarily powerful tool, not only for revenue generation, but also to be able to go meet customers where they want to be met and not force them into interacting with you as a brand through your own sort of tried and true or siloed interaction methods.
Wow. Who wants 60x results? Anybody? Absolutely. So you mentioned already, and one of the things you passed over pretty quickly was cart abandonment.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about how's Lenovo handling that, because I think you're seeing some amazing results there.
Yeah. So everybody knows that cart abandonment is the bane of our existence. We pay a ton of money for acquisition and retention, only to get them to the cart. Where they just bail. And so, I've seen sort of industry-wide, cart abandonment is in the 70% range. And so being able to sort of capture that is extraordinarily important because it's very high revenue per visit, very qualified customers. But it becomes important for us to go understand the intention of why people are abandoning the cart, why they're using the cart in the first place, and then why they're abandoning. And one of the things we observed at Lenovo was our customers were actually using our cart to compare products. They were taking multiple products to cart and actually comparing them, which is a failure on our part, quite frankly, in the browse layer. So we started to go look at really having a better understanding of why are customers bailing. So we started to go build a cart abandonment program that is actually, it's multi-layered, multi-step. And it starts out with, hey, you forgot something in your cart. Very generic. And this is over about a 10-day period. Typically, for us at Lenovo, we see entry to conversion at about 11 days. So from the point where a customer comes in to where they ultimately buy, it takes them about 11 days to purchase. So we've really built a cart abandonment program that works within that 11 days to go drive additional sales. The first one is, hey, you forgot something in your cart. The second one starts to go talk about the value of the product that's in the cart. How does it solve problems? What's the thoughtfulness that we put into the idea and design? Why is it good for a specific use case? That is driven by behavioral information that we get from customers. So we get first-party data, we get zero-party data, We get behavioral telemetry so that we can better understand why are customers coming, what segments are they in, what industries are they in, particularly for small businesses, what kind of consumer customer, are they a gamer, are they a student? Then we can start to go craft messages on that second one that talk about the product that you chose being the right one for you. The third one becomes more about trying to go talk about the value of Lenovo in our loyalty program. And the fourth one there's a bit of entropy built into this one, and what I mean by that is we don't do it for everybody. But on the fourth one, from time to time, we will actually send a coupon code. But what we found is I don't like to do that in general, because what I don't want people to do is game the system, abandon, and then expect to get a coupon code. So we only really give it away about 3% of the time. But it is effective at that sort of last mile. But we found that at every point, every touch point, we see people interact and engage with it. And as we get a little bit more personalized, a little bit more focused on meeting the customer's needs, we find that those become even more effective over time. These are things that we think about quite a lot, and we've built a really, I would say, state-of-the-art automation platform to be able to go leverage all of that, and then start to go look at things like what's the best time of day to go interact with this customer and get in their email box. What's the best way to be able to go, what's the best subject line to be able to go say it? So we're testing a bunch of stuff, probably 100 different tests a day on cart abandonment, to better understand how do we interact with customers based on what they're telling us or what they're inferring to us based on behaviors, and constantly fine-tuning that and tweaking it.
Yeah, I know I have played that game because I know there are certain brands that I use that if I abandon it and wait a couple of days,
Yes.
I'll get a discount. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So beyond one-time transactions, the card and what we just talked about, usually very transactional based. But how are you using messaging to create the loyal, long-term, brand champion, if you will, and consumer?
Yep. I think the overarching tenet that we sort of apply at Lenovo.com is that we believe that we can build lasting relationships with customers by making it easy to do business with us. Listen, Dave and I are both in commodity PC businesses. These are just black boxes that we sell. Generally speaking, we have to be able to go market and communicate to them effectively. So the first thing that's really important to us is it easy for us to do business with a customer? And the thing that we sort of ground ourselves on every single day is that you look at sales as product times AUR, right, or average order revenue, or cart size, whatever. But the more important thing is to look at that behind every single transaction is a need, is a customer that's asking for help with something, whether it's I want to be able to go game better than my cousin, or I want to be able to go have a product to help me start my small business, and you guys figure out the technology. I want to go focus on building up my salon or building up my small medical practice or my garage mechanic store, etc. This is what's important to us, is understanding the core about what's behind every single touch point with us, and then reinforcing that through messaging and through personalization. And we couple that with what I think, quite frankly, maybe I'm biased, is a gold standard loyalty program at Lenovo. And we call it My Lenovo Rewards. And we've done a lot of work to understand sort of within the industry, what are the benefits that people get through a rewards program? And then we said, well, let's do one better than that. So we have a really, really thoughtful approach to personalized offers, exclusives, and making people feel like they are part of a club, and that they're getting access to something that others maybe don't or cannot. And then, more importantly, outside of the transactional element, we start to go have conversations with people along parts of their life that are important to them, which is, let's talk to you on your birthday. Let's send you something on your birthday. Let's talk about, hey, your business grew from 10 employees to 20 employees. We're gonna celebrate that with you. So we do that. We also sort of engage and ask people's opinions on things. I mean, I don't know how you feel, but when a business asks me how I feel about their products or whether I have any ideas on how to improve their products, I will absolutely always provide that feedback. And people want to feel like they are contributing to something bigger than themselves. I know I do. And so we ask people all the time, how can we make loyalty better? How can we make our ThinkPad products better? What would you be looking for if you were buying a gaming laptop? These are the ways that we get information at scale from our customers. And we've got about 2.2 million loyalty members right now. So you can imagine that that's a great way to get feedback in real time on what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. But more importantly, the other thing that we do about loyalty, and it's one of the things I actually like the most about my boss, is we do about 4 million transactions a year. And every single one of them gets an email from my boss that says, we hope you had a great experience on Lenovo.com. And if you have any feedback, here's my email address. Here's my LinkedIn. Just that sort of personal ownership of customer experience in a messaging platform to every single buyer of stuff is incredibly powerful. On the other hand, it's a giant pain in the ass because I always get all of the escalations, every single one of them. But it is good to be able to go hear from customers and have an executive in an organization that's so passionate about making customers feel valued and that they're having a good experience that he puts his name, email address, LinkedIn on every single email that goes out after purchase. It's just, to me, that's how you build brand loyalty, is make it easy to do business, treat people like you value what they do, and build a program that sort of, I don't know, touches them at all points of their life, not just as part of a transaction, but all the way through a year.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And when I speak, it's all about effort reduction. I kind of mentioned the statistics earlier today because it's ultimately what drives loyalty, statistically. Mm-hmm. And I call them rocks in the journey because I like to evaluate, the customer journey like a river.
Yes.
More rocks in the journey, the more they're going to bail to a smoother flow. But so that being said, control is a big question too, mm-hmm. because I know as consumers, there's the opting out and the subscription management and frequency and things of that nature. So how do you handle kind of that want for control by the consumer and yet the kind of the protection of your organization and your purpose?
Well, I think we give it a lot of thought. I think our perspective, and I think a lot of business perspective, is customer agency and privacy is sacrosanct. And so it is always important for us to be able to go make it easy for people to opt out because at different parts of their purchase cycle or life cycle, they just don't want to talk to us, and that's okay. But how many people in here have signed up for an email program, tried to log out or tried to sort of unsubscribe and got an email the next hour from the same company? I know I have. There's a streaming provider that does this to me every single time. It starts with an H. I tell them, I don't want your emails. And then the next day I get an email from them telling me about something that's happening. And that's a terrible customer experience. So the thoughtfulness that we put into giving customers agency and discretion and ownership of how they want to interact with us is very important. I believe that we have sort of gold standards in how we approach opt-ins, double opt-ins. You opt in on the website, and then you opt in either through email or through a text message. Otherwise, we don't send you anything. We also separate marketing from transactional communications from loyalty communications. So if you only want loyalty communications, you don't want to market to, that's perfectly fine as well. And then we also have a privacy portal through our online account that allows you to be able to go through any one of the ways that we market to you, through any segment that we have, and say, I want to opt out of this, I want to opt into this, and this is something that is completely self-serve and can be done without interacting with any customer care rep or tech support rep. And so that's something we're very proud of as well.
All right, so we got to do it.
Yes, sir.
We got to talk about it.
What are we talking about?
AI.
Oh, brother.
In fact, I know you wanted to actually think about the question that was asked earlier and give kind of your own answer to that.
Yeah, so there was a question that was, and I'll get to the actual answering this question because it's fascinating, and I am so excited about the sort of AI landscape and Skynet taking over. But there was a question earlier that sort of referenced the familiarity that a bartender has with a client or customer coming in, and the question was sort of how do you replicate that through AI? And I thought Dave's answer was good. But I was really thinking about a different answer, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So let me start with a question. How many people in here, 5 times a week or more, use agentive AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, et cetera, to ask questions? 5 times or more. That is insane. In fact, there's a recent study that says that by the end of 2026, Google searches will go down by 40%. 40%. Which means that we have got to all collectively start to think about moving away from potentially traditional marketing avenues, paid search, display, even video, into how do we build a infrastructure around SEO for our own properties that actually starts to go build ChatGPT responses effectively, where you don't even have to pay it. Because many of them you can actually pay. You cannot pay to be able to be part of a promotional advertising campaign. Man, I'm getting off track. Okay. The reason why I asked this question is I use ChatGPT constantly. I love it. I love Gemini as well. I use them for 2 different use cases. But what's interesting was I came to Toronto and I said, I've only been here once in my life, and this is the second time. And I said, hey, tell me what kind of restaurants are good to go at, or like to go to in Toronto. And what was interesting was it was a very nice introduction. It was like, cool, dude, you're going to Toronto. It's an amazing city, which it is. But what was really cool was because I had had interactions with ChatGPT over the last year, and I had fed it with information, it had built a progressive profile for me. And it said, and what it said was, hey, you clearly like really cool vibe places. You like a very nice wine list. You've told me in the past that your favorite restaurant in the U.S. is a place called the Four Horsemen in New York. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Here are my suggestions for you. And last night I went to a fantastic place called Grey Gardens, and it was very similar to Four Horsemen. So the point of all this is just to say, I think that this is just the beginning of conversational AI, and it's becoming a lot better about understanding people and intents in a way that it didn't a year ago. And so I think that this notion of AI will never be as good as the bartender who knows my favorite drink, I mean, look at how far we've come in 18 months. It is going to be a wild ride, and I'm here for it. I'm so excited because it's making our lives easier. And it's really giving me access to things I never knew before. But why is AI important? I believe AI is incredibly important for marketing. Very, very important. In fact, we're investing a lot of money on R&D and our own sort of inside bespoke AI capabilities. But here's what I'll tell you, and this is nothing new. I'm not like some sort of soothsayer or prophet. You guys all know this. One is AI can do extraordinary automation at scale and ingestion of data in a way that 100 people can't do in real time. That is incredibly important if, like me, you have a very small organization that's trying to go reach 100 million customers just in the US every single year, which is what we do. The second one is that it can stitch together behavioral attributes, telemetry from online purchases, first party, zero party, segmentation data, et cetera, to be able to go better understand how do we sort of build this progressive profile of a customer of one, and then how do you build capabilities to go talk to them effectively? When do they like to be talked to? What channel do they like to be able to respond to, et cetera? That's important. The third one, and is the bane of my existence, quite honestly, is content creation. So if you think about all the permutations on a true personalization campaigns, the permutations, as you start to go from 5 products to 6 segments to 9 different routes to market to 10 different creative concepts within one single platform like Meta. Like I got Reels, I've got DPA, I've got videos, et cetera. All of this stuff. You start to think about the permutations and how that all adds up. You get to a point where within a month you're having to do 10,000 different pieces of creative. This is where AI is going to be really important as well. It's going to allow you to be able to go create this content in a way that you've never been able to do before, throw it in the market, test it, and see what happens. I'm very excited, and I think we're just at the beginning of it, and the hardest part for us is deciding what's the best AI technology to use right now, because they're all moving so fast.
Yeah, I think it's very important to really double down on that statement that we have to understand that we're going to be selling and marketing to someone's AI, not necessarily them.
Yes.
I mean, I already have my own. I've got several of my own AI chatbots, or et cetera. And the reality is, it's going to be placing orders for me based on who it knows. And so therefore, the data, to your point, SEO is so much more important. We're going to have time for questions, so definitely be thinking of that. So what advice would you give to companies really that are just beginning their journey to leveraging messaging as a sales channel and so forth?
Well, one is I think you have to be intentional about what you sort of want to get out of it. Is it that you want to go drive revenue? Is it that you want to go reduce your number of inbound sales interactions? Is it that you're trying to be able to go improve your transparency on post-purchase order information? That becomes really important. So that's the first thing. The second thing is within the context of revenue, I would just suggest going after the biggest, highest hitting opportunities first to be able to go prove it out. And what we found, to your point, cart abandonment is extraordinarily effective. Exclusive offers, very effective. Flash sales, be able to go tell people in advance, hey, something's coming up you might care about, is very important. And even sort of deals, like deals or price changes on something for a product. I think it's important to be able to go look at what you think is the most important aspect of it and start there. And then I would also say, I've signed up for probably 30 different SMS marketing programs because I want to understand what is happening in the landscape and how people are approaching me as a customer. So I would say there is no shame at all, and sign up for an email or for an SMS program or an email program from a brand that you really like, figuring out what they do well, and then steal it. That's okay, because imitation, in my opinion, is the sincerest form of flattery. I've seen companies in our industry that have actually taken our ideas and applied it to their own business. And on the one hand, I'm super angry about that. On the other hand, we believe we're always like the little guy on the field, so we never believe anybody's looking at us. So when you see what we're doing being reflected in other places, is extraordinarily gratifying and humbling. So steal all the time. Steal great ideas, test them. If they don't work, steal another great idea. Clearly, there's a lot of people that have done testing and have figured out ways to be able to be effective. Just listen, learn from their mistakes. You don't have to go create your own mistakes or go through mistakes on your own. If they're doing it, there's a good reason why. So, I don't know, use it.
Yeah, you gave them all permission to just walk in a store and steal something.
No.
So, yeah, no, I get it. Questions from the audience? Who's got a question? Right up front. Oh, hold on one second. We need a mic for you for the remote folks.
This is always the scariest part, right? Questions from the audience.
Hi, I actually have two questions.
Okay.
Can you say more about the SEO and really like pulling kind of the marketing element into the like ChatGPT and Gemini? And then also just a little bit more about what tools you have landed on that you really like. So.
Sure. No, that's fine. Again, I'm hoping David isn't in here so he gets any ideas about what we're doing at Lenovo. I'm only joking, Dave, if you're in the audience. So the first question was about SEO and the contributory effect it has on ChatGPT and generative AI. So what we found is that when you start to go look at the elements that sort of contribute to a ChatGPT response, it starts with your own data and your own taxonomy and your own sort of site structure and data structure on your site. Because the idea here is that your site should be able to go feed other sites. So for example, for us, what we look at is how often do our products show up in best of lists, CNET best of lists, PCMag best of lists, et cetera. Because the more that these show up in different places, talking about products, talking about gaming products, the more that these sort of generative AI platforms are going to crawl those. And they're going to see those as high authority. So my website, Lenovo, is one of the top, I don't even know, it's top 200 company in the world, so it's got high domain authority. But when you supplement it with domain authority from other places where people go and look for product information or look to get recommendations, ChatGPT will look at that and say, these are high authority domains, and they're talking about your product, and therefore when somebody searches for, give me the best gaming laptop to play Apex Legends at 244 frames per second, they show up. Because it's really important to understand, look at what the trends are in ChatGPT queries, and then start to go understand how do you build an SEO program and actually a program using partners to be able to go sort of target those queries. And it's going to take time to go do it, but you really have to start thinking about how do you move away from traditional paid search into AI and augmented, AI search, et cetera, because to do so will be at your own peril because costs are going to continue to rise on paid search and through paid programs. And people are really shying away from them and starting to go look at, they want more quality information. Hopefully that answered your question. And then in terms of what are we using? So we have used a lot of partners, and I'll give you two that we found to be extraordinarily successful. First one is for email automation. I talked about the fact that our email program is now like 90% automation revenue driven. And we use a partner called Bluecore. And Bluecore actually works with us on a global scale. They contribute to every single market that we have. And they have been thought leaders in helping us to go define and understand what are the automation workflows that are important for your industry, and they've helped us figure out how do we map that out. So Bluecore has been very, very effective for us on the email side. The other one that I didn't talk about that's actually more CX focused is we've used a couple of vendors on the post-purchase program. So we've used Narvar and Aftership. And a lot of companies use Narvar, but if you don't know about them, they essentially provide you with really transparent information after a purchase. They say, your order's on the way in big, 56-point Arial. They say it's going to be delivered on Thursday, May 29th, or whatever the date is. And they give you ways to be able to go interact and get information so you, as a customer, don't have to call my customer care rep to have a conversation about what my order status is. And that has actually reduced inbound sales calls related to order status, as well as inbound customer care calls for order status by 17%. And so when you're talking about doing millions and millions of transactions a year, 17% is not immaterial. And so we can now start to go change how do we staff up on call center, how do we staff up on customer care, and more importantly, how do we start to go look at other places to go invest in rather than investing in low value add order status inquiries. So hopefully that's just 2 examples.
So we don't have time for another question, but this has been a great conversation. So help me thank Carlo for such a great session.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, we are going into our first break. So a couple of things on this. When we come back, we're going to be in our tracks. So customer experience is in here. Customer success is around the corner, down the hall. They'll be directing folks that direction. And for this break, definitely spend some time in the expo hall. And as the local bar, so we've been talking bars all day, seems like, says, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here. So we do need you to move out of the hallway so we can refresh the room and get ready for the tracks coming after break. So enjoy break for the next 30 minutes.